Now, continuing with the previous lecture that we have talked about on how to measure productivity and other aspects of it, let us talk about another term, the quality. Okay. The trick with the quality is that this is one of the hardest aspects to measure. Okay. So, quality is not very easy to measure, but by definition what quality is, it is the degree to which outputs from the system conform to the requirements of the customer. So, how good are the products meeting the customer expectation? This is what we talk about as a quality, or in a way it is conformance to customer needs. It is quite hard to measure because each customer is an individual person, and so if you have one customer here and another customer here, both will have, this is we call customer 1 and customer 2, they will have different requirements. If your product is the same and we have same car and both the requirements for the same car, it might be different. So, like for example, somebody might look at the performance of the car, somebody might look at the convenience of the car, somebody might look at the responsiveness to the accelerator, or they will look at the perception of the quality. So, at the end of the day, what will happen is the customer focuses on attributes. The attribute focus of the customer changes from individual. So, once each individual has their own thought process, and hence at the end of the day your quality is dependent on your customer, whomever you are dealing with, and there is always iffy to measure this. Okay. But you can always measure averaged values of quality, that is why we always talk about average quality, okay, averaged values, right. Now, there is another thing that we want to talk about, it is called as a quality of work life, QWL. Okay. So, what is a quality of work life? This is an important concept, QWL, because the worker who is, it measures the way employees in a factory, need not be factory, let us call it as an organization, okay, organization responds to the socio-technical aspects of the system. This is a fancy word, so I will explain it to you. So, like for example is if you are using a here is a machine, okay, it is doing something. Let us assume that here is a machine with a drilling bit, and here is a workpiece and it is drilling a hole, an employee is standing here. So, he is subjected to, okay, what is called as splashes of coolant, then there is this noise coming from here, then the temperature, humidity, etc. All right. So, all these aspects this person is subjected to. So, by providing a proper quality work environment, one would make the work life of employee better, or you would end up improving the quality of work life. So, how does the employee responds to all these aspects that are subjected to him? This quality of his work life is also an important consideration in sustainability, because at the end of the day you have to take care of this human being as well. Okay. So, in our class also some of the experiments we will talk about how do we measure noise, how do we measure how do we replace chloride and sulfide based coolants, which are mineral oils, to something that is more compatible with the skin and other aspects of it. So, those kind of aspects we will actually see in this course as well. So, the quality of work life is also an important aspect of sustainability. Then comes the fancy world called innovation. Everybody talks about innovation and what is innovation and those kind of things. For the sustainability aspects, what we call it as it is a measure of the applied creativity in the system. From sustainability standpoint, this is how we measure innovation here. The applied creativity, how is the applied creativity is going to work out? That is what we are trying to do. Okay. So, what is it? It is basically, what do we do? It starts with the design, then development, then product improvement, then and process improvement. So, you can have a new innovative product. An example of this is Tesla electric car. This is a new product. Okay. Or you can have a new innovative process, okay, which is what you can talk about. It is a blue tech car by Mercedes is an example. Okay. Because what they do is they are using the same gasoline and other things, but the emissions of it is so clean that the car is basically, you can say that the car is running on water kind of a thing, because it's not it is polluting, it's producing no pollutants. So, those kind of aspects you can have both a product and process, but the idea is that how do you, so here is a, we call as innovation, or we call it as applied creativity. How would you create new solutions to the problem? And this applied creativity is quite important to sustainability, because in this class we will see how vegetable oils replaces mineral oils in machining. So, this is where you are replacing, you are coming up with a new alternative product, which is, this is biodegradable. So, the vegetable oil is biodegradable, whereas the mineral oils, they are non-biodegradable. So, hence the innovation here is, how did we, it's an applied innovation, where you end up changing the mineral oil with non-biodegradable mineral oil with the help of a biodegradable vegetable oil. Okay. So, that is innovation for us. Then we talk about sustainability. So, we seen this term sustainability, and we discussed this in many ways. So, formally we will once again define sustainability. This is the definition that is given by UN and UNESCO. You talk about any agencies who are working in the sustainability angle, they use this as the development that meets the needs and aspirations of the current generation, okay, or development that meets the needs and dreams of present generation or current generation without compromising the capability of future generations to meet their needs and dreams. So, what you are trying to do is, you are doing something today. So, if you think about it in a time scale, so let us say this is the present generation and you are doing something in today, and then let us say 50 years down the road, okay, they should still be able to do, they might want to have a dream of doing this, and we have no right to prevent their dreams of doing this. This is what the sustainability means. So, whatever we use here, use in such a way that future also gets an option to use it. Okay. So, that is one aspect of the sustainability. This is the general thought process. For this course purpose, we propose this particular definition of sustainability. The proposed definition here is that the development that enables individuals, communities and organizations to raise living standards through profitable products while minimizing adversarial environmental impact. So, our aim is that you have a transformation process which has inputs and you have outputs. Okay. So, what we are trying to say is that you do the outputs, but at the same time you look at different strategies of dealing with the input and resulting in minimizing adverse environmental impacts. So, the focus of this course is to a large extent how do we maintain the productivity without adversely impacting the ecology or the environment, or how do we reduce ecological impacts. Okay. How can we do this on a, so the thought process here is how do we achieve this on a step by step basis. Okay. That is the thought process of this course. Okay. All right. So, the major strategies, there are a lot of these strategies that are followed by people. The first one, the 3 R's that we talk about: reduce, okay, reduce the usage. It can be inputs, mostly this is focuses on inputs. Okay. This is reuse. Reuse means find ways to reuse the item so that new item need not be produced. This example is coolant recycling, reusage. This is to a large extent it requires what we call as innovation aspects of it. Recycle, basically change the form of the output and make it part of input. So, this is another way. If you recycle, then your requirement of the input. So, you are again trying to reduce the input aspects of it. So, these 3 strategies, reduce, reuse and recycle, these are known, advocated and sometimes practiced. This is the reality among this. Okay. What we are trying to focus in this course is we are talking about being efficient, but we are talking about eco-efficiency. How can we make the system being less bad? Okay. That is the concept. How do we make the manufacturing less bad? How do we do that? Okay. So, then for that we propose 2 more R's, okay, which is the refine, okay, refine the process and aspects, so that you are again reducing inputs. Okay. Recover means use as much of the waste as possible. Okay. Not necessarily just waste, like for example, recovery of gold from circuit boards is an example of this case. Okay. So, if you add these two also to this, then you can actually reach sustainability at a much, this will make it at a faster rate. Okay. That is the thought process of this. All right. So, some of the ideas that is related to sustainability is that, the first thing that one should understand in this case is the manufacturer, the if you think about it again, your transformation process, here is the input, here is the output. So, when you say manufacturer, this is what we are talking about. It is responsible for the entire life cycle of the product. Okay. So, from the raw material to final good to customer usage to maintenance to disposal. So, the life cycle of it is, you basically can think about it as design, then manufacturing, usage, maintenance, disposal, and if you can do that, if you can bring the system back again into the cycle, then that is where you actually do the better aspect of it. Okay. So, that is also other thing aspect is that you can also think about it as subcycling. You can think about the cycle being completed this fashion. Okay. So, the idea is that achieve no waste. Okay. Always easy to say achieve no waste, but most of the time this is quite hard to do or hard to realize. Okay. So, if not possible, then what do you do? Make less waste. Okay. Reduce waste, which is to a large extent sometimes lean manufacturing also talks about it. Okay. The principle of lean is reducing of the waste in the system. Okay. So, but here we are not just talking about waste, but waste is one aspect of it. It is a much more bigger system than just reducing the waste. Okay. So, let us think about it in a systems viewpoint, and then we will look into some examples of it. So, the systems viewpoint here basically says that how do we make sustainable communities? That is one question. So, you can see, remember we talked about individual to group to department to organization to communities to country to globe. This was our thought process. So, what we thought about it is, yes, we were focusing more on up to the organizational side and realize how sustainability is achieved or realized here. This is what we are focusing on. But if we make sustainable organizations, then they should translate to what we call as sustainable communities. So, that is one approach, a systems approach that we are taking in this class. How do we realize sustainable communities? Okay. And then once you do that, and when you focus on this, then the second part of the question comes in is how do you make sustainable business ecosystems? Okay. Or you have to have production, but minimize adversarial impacts, reduce usage, okay, etc. So, what we are trying to do is, yes, you have to have production, but at the same time produce it in such a way that you are minimizing the ecological impact. And how do we do this? How do we initiate this process? And in the following lectures, you will actually see how do we focus on individual, it can be person or a process. Okay. From there, we talk about a group or a, we will say flow line or something like this. From there we talk about what we call as a production department. From there we talk about a factory. So this is the way how do we sequentially move through this chain to ensure at each time we reduce the reduction of inputs is one example, or why how do we increase efficiency of the system so that you can produce the same at least with reduced inputs. So how do we do that? How do we initiate that whole process is what you will see in the lectures that are coming in this course. So I'll give you a few examples of this because it is very important to know how certain companies have achieved this. So let's start with a company called Toyota. Toyota is a Japanese company, an automotive manufacturer. I believe almost everybody knows about this company. And the Toyota's environmental vision, okay, they make automotive cars, very good durable cars. They are also, you heard about probably, if not, I'll recommend you to do about TPS, which is called as the Toyota Production System, which is more focused towards what is called as JIT, just in time technology. Okay. So how they talked about reducing inventory and all those aspects is part of it. So the Toyota's environmental mission is they wanted to become the most admired and respected automobile manufacturer. Okay. How are they going to achieve that? How are they going to become the most admired and most respected automobile manufacturer? It is by demonstrating continuous environmental performance improvements. So you are going to continuously demonstrate that you are meeting the environment, you are improving your processes from the environmental angle. You are trying to minimize the impact on environment, and resulting in, so that way they will resulting in environmental leadership and sustainability. So their aim is to actually make the production process sustainable, or sustainable in a sense that you become a leader is not just market leadership. Okay. That is the important aspect that Toyota said. We just don't want to be just market leader. We also want to be environmental leader. Okay. So this is what Toyota's thought process was. Okay. Toyota said, fine, we want to actually become the environmental leader by demonstrating. How do we do this? By demonstrating continuous environmental performance. So how did Toyota actually ended up doing this? So the Toyota's environmental management system, typically they started with recycle, reuse and reduce. These were the things that Toyota followed. Okay. How did they follow this? So if you draw this as a diagram, so they have their, think about this as their parts manufacturer. They started from there. Then you have, the systems comes into what you call as the, here is your production. So you have procurement and logistics here. So they focused on how can we ship items also with minimal truckloads. And then there we have what we call as the production. Then they have dealers. So they are the ones who are interacting with the customers. Okay. So after the production, it gets transported here. So here is logistics of finished goods. Okay. Then from there, what do the customer do? So the customer, which is a part of this, so they use this. Okay. So we will call it as usage. Okay. So this requires some, then the customer will dispose. Let's call us the disposal process. And from the disposal, they have created a recycle company. And the recycle company then again will supply to the parts manufacturer. Okay. So here the main aspects would be, raw material. So they focused on raw material, the reduction of the raw materials. They focused on fuel, okay, which is the better fuel efficiency. And they focused on energy, okay, reduce energy. or in other way what they also looked into is minimize dependency on fossil fuels. So, they looked for solar plus wind energies like that on or renewable sources of energy, and then they also looked at water, reduction of water consumption. So, Toyota's focus was this way. So, they focused quite a lot more on reduce, and whatever possible reduce and recycle were the two things, and certain cases they are reused. So, I will give you an example of what they ended up reusing and other aspects of it. Okay. So, this is the Toyota's environmental management system. Okay. And what are some of the outputs of this? Okay. Tangible measures of whom? Tangible measures of, again I apologize, this color changes frequently, of Toyota. Okay. What are the tangible measures that Toyota came up? Average energy consumption per vehicle produced. Okay. There was about a 27% reduction after 2000. So, they have reduced the energy consumption. Okay. Metric tons of carbon dioxide per vehicle produced. Okay. They were able to reduce 23% reduction after year 2000. So, this was the tangible measurements. So, how much of carbon dioxide per vehicle produced, they were able to reduce by 23%. Average water consumption, this was reduced by 26% reduction since year 2000. So, per vehicle that is produced, 26% reduce in water consumption, and non-saleable waste produced per vehicle, 46% reduction since year 2000. An example of this is in most of the tubes that is used, like the fuel lines, brake lines, etc. The tubes have what you call as plastic end caps to prevent that dust and other things, grims don't get into the tube. So, it is like a tube and you have two end caps, two plastic end caps. So, these are the plastic end caps. So, what Toyota ended up doing was they ended up 100% recycling of this. So, typically people throw this end cap away and then assemble it, but they collected this end cap and then they recycled it. So, 3 tons of plastic was saved. So, this is an example of how Toyota realized or achieved what we call as sustainability, environment sustainability through this process. And also before this, there is also one more thing I want to mention about Toyota is that Toyota tried to do one thing which is called as the 3 wet or wet painting approach. This was a process innovation. So, what happens is the painting process, typically I will kind of draw it here. The painting process is the body, then comes to the primer, then dry in oven, then becomes body in white, and then paint. This was the process. What Toyota did was they basically said, okay, once you do the primer, forget this dry in oven and just paint the primer directly, so that when you are happening the paint, the body in white this is wet, it is no longer dry. So, they came up with an innovative process how to realize how to paint the color on the body in white, which is the primer, which is not dry yet. In that process, they actually eliminated this drying process, which saved a lot of energy which is electric oven. Okay. So, these kind of things. So, this is also where they are building innovation into what we call as the concept of innovation plus reduce plus recycle, okay, plus reuse were the strategy that Toyota used to realize environmental leadership or environmental sustainability. Similarly, the other company that we talk about it is EADS. EADS, the most common name is European Aerospace and Defense. So, people typically know about this in a much better form name called as Airbus. Okay. So, Airbus Vision 2020 says that they would like to reduce 30% reduction in energy consumption per aircraft produced. Okay. And then they want to reduce 80% reduction in industrial water discharge and 50% reduction in water consumption per aircraft, 50% reduction in waste, 50% carbon dioxide. This is VOC is the volatile organic compounds, 50% reduction in VOC. So, this was EADS vision. So, if you see that they are targeting larger reductions. So, you can see that they are focused more towards what we call as reducing. So, strategy of EADS is reduction, or if you talk about productivity, the output over input, the EADS aim is to do this while maintaining the same output. Keep the output while the time reduce the inputs. Okay. So, how are they planning to do this? Well, they are approaching this the first phase being the design. Okay. They design the products in itself which are eco efficient or design a sustainable product. Okay. So, then once it is happens is you have the product, from there you do what we call as manufacturing. Okay. You do this is called as a supply chain. Okay. So, they were focusing on making this green or making this sustainable, or making this green in a sense, making it environmental friendly. Okay. So, that is what this is about. Then once happens is that we focus on what we call as the operations, okay, the operations of aircraft. Okay. And then from there, once you have the end of life, okay, we move to then again that data goes in and you do the redesign. So, again you can see that they completed the cycle. So, the upcycling was also done as part of this. Okay. Then similarly, Boeing is another company. Okay. They had large targets in this regard. So, their aim was to actually we will talk about the Boeing targets. So, they want to reduce the global emissions, energy, etc. So, they wanted to reduce CO2, okay, by 9%, then water usage by 2%, then hazardous waste by 18%, and landfill waste they wanted to reduce 36%. Okay. This was again the 2020 vision if you think about it, and energy usage 36%, 3%. So, if you see they are not really very they are optimistic in this regard. Okay. But compared to Airbus, Boeing tried to create a much more simpler target in this regard, but at the end of the day still they are in the focus of reduction. Okay. So, it is not that sustainability is not being followed by organizations, it is followed by organizations. Companies like Toyota, Airbus, Boeing all pay attention to this. So, how do we can so that is the more important aspects of it. Okay. So, I hope that you guys understood the concepts and why it is important for that, and we will see how to do optimization in the next class. In the meantime, enjoy reading. Thank you.